Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us on such short notice. I'd like to start off by introducing CCSD Board of School Trustees President Lola Brooks.
Good afternoon. The past few weeks have been tense, but I'm happy to announce that today we averted a strike that would have negatively impacted our students and our families that we're all entrusted to serve. We believe that compromise is necessary when dealing with complex issues. It's important for all parties involved to set a positive example for the students who are watching and who depend on us for care. With this being said, the long-term financial stability of the district requires us to continue our laser-sharp focus on increasing funding at the state level and implementing a new funding formula. Our teachers cannot continue to teach in overcrowded classrooms. We can't continue to make cuts in order to fund raises, and we must continue to discuss these systemic issues and work together to address them for the benefit of our students and our families. Even though we were able to reach a tentative agreement, we still have a lot of work to do, and we hope this step will show our willingness to work together and to move in a more positive direction. With that being said, I'd like to introduce CCSD Superintendent Dr. Jara.
First of all, thank you, Trustee Brooks. Thank you for being here. And before I get started on some of my prepared comments, I'd like to thank both bargaining teams on CCEA side and CCSD for your hard work and dedication to really get this deal done on behalf of our entire community, but especially our 18,000 great teachers that are part of our family here at CCSD. As Trustee Brooks mentioned, this is something that we can continue to do, but the effort that collectively, especially of the leadership at the state level and the leadership at CCEA to get this deal done was critical for our 320,000 children. Parents and community leaders, thank you for your patience and for your support as we finalize our efforts here to now get to really focus on student achievement and the great work that's happening in our classroom. So the deal has been reported and presented, I think, is a fair deal for our educators who have the largest impact in student achievement. As we all know, the number one factor in increasing student achievement is that classroom teacher. Very critical, and it's important that for us as a board and superintendent that we finalize and settle this deal. But understanding where we are today, we will continue as an organization to stay disciplined in our efforts to make sure that funding stays in the classroom. This organization, since I started and before I got here, my CFO, as he's been here a little bit longer, our work was really to run an efficient operations in the business side and in central office. Some of the decisions that we have been making as an organization to really freeze all hiring in central office for the last 14 months will continue. We will continue to stay focused on maintaining some of those efforts as we continue into the year. I'll also tell you that we have been, as we have been reporting to our board and this community, trending positively in our revenue, meaning our interest financing. So this is one of the things that has helped us finalize this great deal for our classroom teachers who make the greatest impact in our children's lives, our 320,000. And now I'd like to turn her over to our Governor Sisolak, for some comments. Governor?
Thank you, Superintendent. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. I want to begin by saying it's a real pleasure to be here today under these circumstances, considering where we were just a few short days ago. And I thank you all for being here for this good news. And Superintendent Jara, I want to thank you for that. I want to begin by expressing my thanks to the countless parents, educators, students who spoke out and expressed their concerns. They have called, emailed our office. They've shown up. People have stopped me on the street and tell me how concerned they are. And that is why we're here today, because of the expression of their concern about the situation that we're facing. I also want to thank specifically CCSD Superintendent Jesus Jara and the CCSD Board of Trustees, along with CCEA Executive Director John Velardita and his negotiating team, for resolving their disputes and working this out through the appropriate process around a negotiating table. Finally, I want to thank Speaker Frierson and Majority Leader Cannizzaro for joining me and urging both sides to come together for a quick resolution to this situation. I am grateful that both parties have reached an agreement that prevented what could have been a devastating result for our school, our students, our educators, and ultimately our communities. While today is good news, I also want to recommit to doing whatever we can to fix the larger systemic problem we face so we don't end up back here again in 2 years. It's not lost on me that the issues facing Nevada's education system go well beyond the specific issue that was resolved today. They go beyond Clark County, and they go beyond this current time. At times, the issues with our statewide education system can seem insurmountable, but I refuse to back down from this challenge. I refuse to believe that we can't work together to begin fixing these problems and prioritizing education in a way that our state has never done before. I remain hopeful because across all this state, I see teachers committed to their students. I see students who love their teachers. I see principals who show up early and stay late. And I see endless potential in our schools. I look forward to working together with educators, administrators, community leaders, legislators, school districts, parents, and students across the state of Nevada to begin coming up with solutions for these larger problems in the same way that this issue was resolved today, around a negotiating and a discussion table. Thank you all for being here, and now I would like to introduce CCEA Executive Director John Bellardita.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Superintendent Jara, trustees, Chair Lola Brooks, my president, Vicki Courtney, and Sandy Pontillas, a negotiating team member. Speaker Frierson, Majority Leader Canizero. We're pleased to announce today that we reached an agreement that we feel meets the needs of 18,800 educators, addresses an issue that's been long-standing, and that is a commitment to improving our practice so that we can have the best teachers in these classrooms to teach 320,000 kids, not always under the best circumstances or the right class sizes. I think in this last legislative session there was great progress that was made, certainly not the end game in terms of what our systems need, but the leadership at the state level and the governor helped shepherd additional dollars into our school district. These negotiations were challenging because they ultimately get down to a question of priority. The limited funds that we have, we need to be frugal and resourceful and try to put as much into the classroom. And in this case, this negotiated agreement invested in frontline educators, those that do this thankless job, that do it with great passion every day, day in and day out, teaching our kids. At this point, we have notified our entire leadership that we have suspended all operations and that we are now thinking about the day after this chapter is over with. It's about now making improvements in our classrooms so that all 320,000 kids can move forward with their education. I want to thank all the parents that demonstrated their support to their teachers, their students' teachers. I want to thank each and every one of these students, particularly these students in the high schools and the middle schools that have a cherished bond between their educator and themselves, who demonstrated their support for their teachers and their future. Great civic lessons that they went through in terms of how do you make change. But in the end, as the governor said, change took place at the negotiating table. As challenging as it was, as difficult as it was, nonetheless, there was a commitment on both parties to make it happen. So we're pleased today to announce that the agreement that we reach meets the issues and the demands and benefits of the educators that we represent. So I thank you.
So in closing, again, thank you for being here. As I said to this board when I was hired, I said it in January last year, this is something that I inherited, and this is something that I, as superintendent, in collective body with my board, the leadership at the state level, and our partners here, I am committed to fixing what has been going on in this school system for our 42,000 employees. Again, thank you for being here, and we take any questions.
Superintendent Jara, can you explain the details of this agreement that both parties are okay with?
Well, it's been pretty much documented. I can say the 3%, the 2%, the 4% healthcare, and the column movement on the PGP has been settled.
When you say it's been settled, does that mean the possibility of a one-time payment, or is it now the
I
salary?
think it's been settled, and not to get into the details, but it's really what has been a compromise that we've made, that we will pay the full column movement for our 2,500 educators that have earned their PGP.
So that will be
changed your
going forward in
mind?
years to come? That money that you're giving them now, that'll be for years to come?
It will follow the contract language that is currently negotiated, yes.
What changed your mind? Yesterday you said you were abiding by your contract by not paying.
So when we looked at it, and some of the comments I made yesterday to you and to all of you here, it was an opportunity for me as superintendent to really get into the business of educating our 320,000 students and focus on our children.
How do we make sure we're not back in the same position in the next 2 years?
So I'll tell you this, as superintendent, I'm committed to have open dialogue with our members at CCA, our executive board. And I think this is something that we certainly will improve our relationship in finalizing this contract and then working with the state in leadership next session.
So where are you getting the money from? You said you didn't.
It's a
have
great
any.
question. Where am I getting the money? So when we have been reporting this board, my CFO, as we have been committed to reporting on a monthly basis. One of the things I heard loud and clear in my 90-day entry plan, it was a lack of trust. So my CFO and our finance team has been reporting to our board on a monthly basis our financials. They're on board docs, and his comments have been that we have been trending forward. We have been trending better in our finances. And as I also mentioned, that is also the discipline of my chief executives that have been really being fiscally responsible in not filling positions, and also some of the interest earnings that we've had and the frozen positions that we have instituted since I've been here.
So then why for the last 2 weeks have you been saying we're financially strapped, we don't have money?
So what I've been saying is that's a great question, because when we looked at it, and this goes back to, I said this yesterday as well, when we go back and look at the funding formula that we operated on and the systems that we have, and this is where, again, I thank the governor and I thank the leadership in really taking a bold step and updating a 52-year-old funding formula and how funds are coming in. And the lack of transparency. So really, I'm excited that we will start funding and start really implementing the new funding formula.
So you always did have the money?
Did I always have the money? Well, some of the forecasting and the projections, no, we didn't.
What does this mean for the future of the PGP program?
I was not at the negotiating table. I think I'll let Mr. Veladita, since he was in there and my chief negotiator, but I'll let John speak to it.
So it's in place, the parties have agreed to revisit it and to make the appropriate modifications. I think people need to understand that the compass behind the PGP is to improve the practice of the educator in the classroom. And so it's got to correlate with outcomes of student achievement. And so we'll make refinements to the plan moving forward.
Do we have a dollar amount of how much this came down to? I know some projections said 11 million, some said 15 million.
So I'll call my chief finance officer to be able to speak. Mr. Gowdy?
Thank you. So the deal itself, as was mentioned, is a 3% increase, which is essentially about $37 million in year one. Additionally, the step increases are approximately $27 million each year, and then the healthcare increases are about $4.6 million. The variable that we don't have a great handle on at this point, because there's still another deadline to understand how many people will qualify under the PGS for this year. We're estimating that to be between $11 and $15 million for the people that qualify in year 2020. After that, the next group of people, there's a very bigger, a larger unknown because of the fact that we haven't yet met even the first criteria for them to apply. And so we're estimating that somewhere between $15 and $20 million.
So not every teacher who participated will necessarily qualify.
Correct.
How does it impact the size of the classroom? Are we still going to see, I think, most of the students being, where you have
That's a great question. You guys have great questions. This doesn't have an impact in the classroom, and this has been one of my priorities, and it's the biggest challenge that we have, as you heard today. We can't put, and this was my commitment when we were balancing the budget this year, we can't put one more kid in a classroom. We have the largest class size, and it's something that I look forward to working with our governor and leadership to really find ways to address our class size.
I have a question for both Jar and John. How will you move forward with your relationship? Because obviously, for the last couple of weeks, you've been calling this and him disingenuous. How will you guys work together?
They're fine. They're fine.
So I'll say this, and I'll let John speak as well. I don't want to speak for John. This is really, I have a job to do and he's got a job to do. And I think, when you look at negotiations, things happen. But, we both have the commitment of our children and our teachers. At least I know that John does, and so do I. So I'll let John speak for
So
himself.
it's about what you do, not what you say. So moving forward, this chapter's over. And moving forward, it's about teaching 320,000 kids, bringing as much resources into these classrooms so that these teachers can do what they love to do. So this is over with, and we're moving forward.
When can teachers expect to get those raises in their paychecks?
Jason?
So we're going to start working on that right away. We still need to get the agreement ratified and agreed upon through our Board of School Trustees. And as I've mentioned many times in public, our current system is antiquated. And again, I do want to thank the legislature in the past for funding us to get a new system that is nearing completion and will be implemented within this next year. So we'll be releasing that information once we actually physically reach an agreement with the group, and all based on the agreement itself, the payments will go back retroactive to the beginning part of each contract year.
So those pay bumps will not only be that 3%, but also whatever educators qualify for the column movement?
Everything will be based, yes. So if they qualify for column movement, then they will be paid based off of the agreement for that column movement, yes.
And you were mentioning not all teachers qualify. Do we know exactly still how many teachers will get that money?
We don't know at this point. So there was a number of teachers that filed the initial application, call it, that was somewhere around 2,600. And then they have to go through and actually qualify. At the end of September, there's another deadline for which then they submit additional paperwork and then they go through the verification process to see if they meet those criteria.
Last question, when does this have to be ratified by both sides? Is there a timeline?
We'll have to finalize some of the details, and then I'd love to bring it to my board as soon as possible. I don't know if we'll make the September 12th deadline, but we'll try so that we can wait for ratification CCA and try to get it on the board docs as soon as possible so our educators can get paid.
Superintendente, dejar una pregunta en español, por favor.
Claro que sí.
¿A qué puntos del acuerdo que estaban siendo punto de discordia han cedido ustedes, especialmente el incremento de aquellos profesores que hicieron cursos de formación?
La pregunta otra vez.
Sí,
Los
al
cursos.
final van a dar el
Sí, le vamos a dar el dinero a los profesores que hicieron las clases por el Professional Growth Plan, que son como 2.500 profesores.
¿De dónde se han quedado los fondos?
Como dije antes, fueron dinero que nosotros hemos reportado que está subiendo y está mejor, y las posiciones centrales las vamos a seguir, no las vamos a llenar, y vamos a seguir disciplina afuera de las clases.
¿Puede explicar brevemente el acuerdo, el incremento del 3% en español?
Sí, el 3% para todos los profesores, el 2% que son los STEP, y el seguro médico, el 4% para todos los profesores, y todo el columno que va a los profesores que terminaron el Professional Growth Plan también.
John, Dr. Jarrell, what changed at the negotiation table today that all of a sudden you were able to make this headway?
I think we both prioritize our children. At least for my end, and that's what I felt we did, and to get this thing going so we can really focus on our 320,000 children.
Thank you, everyone.
So to answer your question, we've always been consistent. We wanted to reach an agreement at the table, and today was that day.
Thanks, everybody.